Throughout the time of COVID-19, Chi-Psis have benefited from the perspective and wisdom offered by Bill Hattendorf. I am grateful for his leadership and his counsel, and I express my thanks to Sheila and Bill's family for generously sharing Bill with us. Here now, the president of Chi-Psi, number 7, Bill Hattendorf.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, guests and brothers. I'm delighted to be with you this evening at our 179th annual Chi-Psi banquet. We all wish for, long for, the more personal version of these and so many other gatherings that we get involved in. But isn't it great that we can get together at all? The last time we couldn't do an in-person version of a convention annual banquet was back during World War II, when so many of our brothers were away from college, many of them off at war, my father and Sam Bessie's father included. So I'm grateful for this virtual reality right now. I have to tell you, this is not the first virtual banquet I've been to. In 2014, my doctor insisted I not delay in getting a little surgery that coincided with the Nashville convention that year. But then as a surprise, Sam and Justin Frober, in cahoots with my wife somehow, hooked up a connection to my hospital room where passersby kind of stared in at Sheila and I, who, rather than hospital garb, were dressed in our formal wear, right there on the ward. Well, for me, it was just the top pieces that you see now. The bottom, I still had my hospital gown on, but people in the video couldn't see that. So all of a sudden, there I was on the big screen above the stage there in Nashville. In fact, then Justin turned the camera around and I saw hundreds of me with everybody holding up masks. That was just really startling and cool. Justin took me around afterwards on a laptop tour to greet people from table to table. So I didn't miss anybody at convention after all. Pretty darn cool. But I mentioned World War II. Things seemed bleak for fraternities in the 1940s. Number 23, Slipslifer, and others weren't quite sure that Greek organizations would even come back, much less be relevant after such a worldwide conflagration. But they were, and they bounced back in strong fashion, as some of you have heard me talk about before. That's happened other times in our history, of course, and we will bounce back this time too, even if not quite as quick as we'd like. Since last year's convention, Chi-Psi was having a hell of a good year. I, for one, was excited about going out on the road, visiting alphas and alumni receptions, seeing the older Chi-Psis and the brand new ones, seeing board meetings and row regional conferences, alpha assessments, interviews, and the mid-year leadership retreat. It was all good. Membership continued strong. We started a new colony at Texas A&M, finally bringing some in-state company to our Alpha Xi Delta there at Texas Tech. And we were just getting started on meeting the amazing gift opportunity to match the T. Denny Sanford gift. After 6 months or so of many of us quarantining and trying to stay safe now, I think the thing that gets many of us down now is the politics of it all and the lack of, let's say, hopeful leadership at the top. Part of what I'm talking about here is how some folks have pointed to the recent increased spread of coronavirus on many college campuses in particular as being entirely the fault of fraternities. So naturally, there's a new movement to, it's time to do away with the Greek system. We've seen that before. Some of our organizations could have done a better job social distancing, of course, but honestly, what did folks expect? There's something very innate about being excited to be back together with friends after an imposed absence of 5 or 6 months. If it wasn't fraternity, it would have been sports teams or any number of other groupings of collegiates or other folks. I was interested watching over the summer at the colleges and universities where our alphas are located wrestle with the various reopening issues and changing their decisions week to week. Of course, if I may be cynical, for most of them, without some in-person classes and residence hall rents, and maybe without big-time football played at our larger schools, economic problems, if not collapse, seemed a real possibility. I'm sorry we have what Isaac Asimov called a cult of ignorance in the US, the strain of anti-intellectualism that says, my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. It's very frightening to me. But it's not really new. You can trace the movements of this back into the 1800s. In the 1850s, we had the Know Nothing political party, a bunch of other people during the Andrew Jackson administration. It goes on and on. It's fascinating to see the difference between now and then. Maybe not so much in some areas. I'm sorry that the very idea of the virus even has become so political. The conspiracy theories of its purposeful creation, that masks and social distancing are political statements, or that science itself is political, or that treating each other with kindness and respect is somehow political. The different reactions in the country of 19 years ago now are striking. The terrorist attacks that so surprisingly killed 3,000 of our citizens, including 4 Kaisai brothers then, and maybe even got played up to become a reason for us to go to war, versus this year's coronavirus that was so deliberately downplayed, but has already killed over 200,000 Americans, and some predict could reach 300,000 or more by the end of the year. History reminds us what some leaders seeking power or holding on to power have always known, be it Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, even Hitler or Stalin, and countless others. They believed you always need enemies, because enemies can rally your base, and enemies can give you reason for being. But we, as Kaisais, do not have to fall for that. We don't have to join that league. We can do better. For fraternity means friendship and fellowship. Again, fraternity means friendship and fellowship. Our founders recognized that we are social animals and generally want to associate with other social animals. We cannot do that equally with all social animals, of course, so we form close personal associations with just a relative few of them. But Kaisai takes that close personal association a step further, of course, to the level of an elevated and refined friendship. We think of a silver cord which binds together our kindred hearts. It's a deeper commitment to not just 4 years of life, but to a whole life shared with others. A brotherhood of men confident in themselves and in their relationship with one another. A group of men who know themselves well enough to share themselves with others, understanding that in doing so, they can know themselves even better. Our program for self-development grew out of such a concept. Fraternity means friendship and fellowship. Well, fellowship nowadays may be more commonly thought of as sort of a prize, something with money attached, something you get awarded at the end of your senior year or something to put on your resume. But for hundreds of years, a fellowship was more understood, J.R.R. Tolkien style, if you will, to be a collection of people engaged in mutual support. Think of it as a plural term of friendship. What a challenging, reassuring, and productive term all at once. The idea that others are there with you, side by side, in mutual support and shared journey. To be a part of an organized fellowship, of course, is a responsibility, and also a chance to leap forward, join the others, people like you, eager to see and to be seen and to be of service. Fraternity is the original sort of fellowship in a sense. It's more a fragile gift to us than it is a cash prize. It's a sacred friendship with all for one and one for all. And we're all part of a great 179-year-old fellowship. 29 years ago, America's historian, Stephen Ambrose, Iota class of 57, biographer of Nixon and Eisenhower, author of Band of Brothers and dozens of other books, was our 150th banquet keynote speaker. Steve suggested that what fraternity provides is the opportunity to go beyond comradeship of sports or the battlefield, beyond the relationships of business and professions, to form and enrich and sustain true friendship. Friendship, he said, can come at any stage in life, but there's a preciousness to friendships formed in one's youth that is special. I have friends here tonight from our days together at the lodge, men from whom I have no secrets, and from whom I want nothing in return, men to whom I willingly and freely give of myself, as they to me. In a discussion of current events the other day with a local neighbor, maybe trying to be his version of being philosophical about everything going on, he said to me, "Just be the ball." I imagine most of you at some point have seen the movie Caddyshack. Caddy, like there's golf involved. By any critical standard, Caddyshack, like The Big Lebowski and others, is not a great film, but it's become such a part of the male must-see lexicon of movies that you need it to be culturally aware and relevant. The Chevy Chase character in the film, Ty Webb, provided the film's maybe most memorable advice, and that is, of course, be the ball. He said, "There's a force in the universe that makes things happen, and all you have to do to get in touch with it and stop thinking and let things happen. Be the ball. Things happen and be the ball." Well, I challenge each of you right now at this point in history to not just be the ball. Don't just stand by and let things happen. You're a Kaisai, for God's sake. You have so many privileges that come with that. And of course, responsibilities as well. There is an obligation that each of us has been given. It is to participate and to make the world a better place for each other. It is not to turn out the same. It is not to just be the ball, but to grow, to accomplish, to change the world for the better. I ask that you not sit by and just be the ball in these coming days. Our very recently departed brother Bill Gates, Theta Delta class of 47, said, "There's one lesson I've learned over the years as a father, a lawyer, an activist, and a citizen, which stands out above all the rest. We are all in this life together, and we need each other. I ask that you please do your part. Be your brother's keeper. For so many things in the coming days, can I count on you for that? Will you do your part? I thank you."